Poor white people are the most emotionally and psychologically abused group in all of America, bar none. It's not even close.
Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Strana. Thank you so much for all the love and support. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and also educate each and every one of us, you guys are the real MVP.
So lovely. So I came across this stitches on my For You and I thought to share where this sister actually share a very interesting topic that got me thinking, and I realized that she is actually hitting the nail on the head. She goes as far as to explain why she feels that the poor white people are actually the most, you know, damaged people that you can actually think of. Now this, I'm just going to roll the clip as well as some of other stitches I was able to put together. Please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. Alright, lovelies, let's dive into this and we are just gonna come back to talk about it.
Poor white people are the most emotionally and psychologically abused group in all of America, bar none. It's not even close. It's not, no other racial, ethnic, or class group has even come close to being as totally propagandized as poor white people are. And it's because there has been a diabolical, centuries-long effort to turn them against themselves first and turn them against other people so that they never turn against the rich. The energy in America today is very fraught. It is very tense. And there is a lot of fear, but do you notice who the fear is coming from? We're fine. We knew all along who and what this country was because it never tried to hide itself to us. That energy that we're feeling, yeah, that's the collective awakening of poor and lower middle class white people who, until extremely, unbelievably recently, genuinely thought the government was on their side. They legitimately thought that. They're actually blown by the amount of hidden racists, by the amount of corruption, by the amount of scheming and backroom dealing and philia. Like, they are actually shocked. And it's because back in the 1600s and 1700s, when poor white people were working in solidarity with free men and enslaved black people and Native Americans, the rich people got so scared, so horrified by the thoughts of them being outnumbered by people who hate them, that they meticulously brainwashed poor white people into hating everybody and into being the foot soldiers of white supremacy so that they would not overthrow the rich elite. This is not a conspiracy. This is documented American history. Bacon's rebellion in 1676 was the prime example of what the rich white elite feared so much. Bacon's rebellion, so Nathaniel Bacon, right? Nathaniel Bacon was one of those frontier whites who the rich elite had pushed out to the edge of civilization so that they could act as a buffer between the pissed off Native Americans and the rich people. They literally put them out there as food. They literally put them out there to the wolves, literally and figuratively, to be like, okay, if the Native Americans get mad at us, they're going to kill the poor whites first so that we have time to hop on these ships and get away. That was the rich elite's thinking. And Nathaniel Bacon, who wasn't even poor, by the way, he had a little bit of money in his pocket, but he was still pissed off at the way that poor white people in general were being treated. So Nathaniel Bacon, he said, okay, I got something for you. I'm going to organize a militia, hundreds of men strong, with not just white people. I'm going to get some free men. I'm going to get some enslaved black people, and we're going to turn all this shit around. So Nathaniel Bacon and a bunch of black people, like hundreds of black people, like this is hundreds of people basically just took up arms against the federal government and was like, no, fuck you. No, We're actually sick of being treated like we don't matter, of being treated like cattle. And when I say cattle, I use that word very deliberately. Because when people talk about Black history versus white history, they act as if Black people were the only people being used as objects for profit. No. White people have a history of struggle. White people, particularly poor white people, have a history of being food in the belly of the beast that is the American system. But the rich elite have been, again, so thorough and so meticulous at rewriting the history that a lot of you don't know that. Capitalism had gotten to such a degree in England that there was an increasing amount of vagrant poor just wandering the streets. People out of work, people starving to death, people freezing to death, just wandering the streets of England. And the England elite started getting sick of it because rich people don't like to see poor people unless they're working, unless they have their heads down and their backs are bent over with labor. Rich people don't like to see poor people. So in England, they started passing these laws, beggars' laws. And if you got caught begging, for food because your children were starving, they would strip you to the waist and whip you bloody in England. Poor white people have never been the prize. And so then it got to the point where the English elite were so sick of all these poor people wandering around their cities that they were like, what should we do? Should we pay them more? Nah, that can't be it. Let's just ship them off to America as punishment. Let's arrest a bunch of people who we don't like, who make us look bad, and we should just ship them off to America as punishment. So tens of thousands of English convicts were shipped off to America as punishment. And the state of those indentured servant ships was not much better than slave ships. Let's be clear about that. They weren't chained to the deck, shitting and pissing and menstruating all over each other like the slaves were. But it was not a cushy cruise to America. The rich people, both in the American colonies and in England, were making a lick off these indentured servants. And so when the servants would sign up to be indentured under, duress and in desperation, just trying to escape the conditions of their life in England, they would lock these people up and imprison them until the voyage set sail, just to make sure they didn't run away. These poor people, they would just lock them up to make sure they didn't run away after they agreed to work for a master for 5 to 7 years. They called them masters too. Yeah. The voyage to America lasted 8, 10, or 12 weeks, and the servants were packed into ships with the same fanatic concern for profits that marked the slave ships. If the weather was bad and the trip took too long, they ran out of food. The C.C. Flower, leaving Belfast in 1741, was at sea 16 weeks, and when it arrived in Boston, 46 of its 106 passengers were dead of starvation, 6 of them eaten by the survivors. On another trip, 32 children died of hunger and disease and were thrown into the ocean. Gottlieb Mittelberger, a musician traveling from Germany to America around 1750, wrote about his voyage. This is an account from this German about what he saw on an indentured servant's ship to America in the mid-1700s. During the journey, the ship is full of pitiful signs of distress, smells, fumes, horrors, vomiting, various kinds of seasickness, fever, dysentery, headaches, heat, constipation, boils, scurvy, cancer, mouth rot, and similar afflictions, all of them caused by the age and the high salted state of the food, especially of the meat, as well as by the very bad and filthy water. Add to all that shortage of food, hunger, thirst, frost, heat, dampness, fear, misery, vexation, and lamentation, as well as other troubles. On board our ship, on a day on which we had a great storm, a woman about to give birth and unable to deliver under the circumstances was pushed through one of the portholes into the sea. This is the conditions that the indentured servants traveled to America over. And when they got here, they were sold on auction blocks just like the black slaves. They were beaten and they were whipped. The servant women were raped. And when they would try to take these people to court, because these masters were violating the terms of their contracts by being extremely severely abusive to these indentured servants, the court was filled with, you guessed it, rich masters who would acquit them. One servant died because his mistress cut off all of his toes, and she was acquitted. Another master was brought to court for raping 2 servant women. He was also known to beat his wife and children, and he beat and whipped another servants, had him tied up in the basement, and he died too. And guess what? He also got acquitted. This is how poor white people have always been treated by rich white people in this country. And yet they still continue to support them because rich white people have put in so much effort to turn poor white people against everybody but them. Go to part 2.
I really need white people to drop this narrative. I really need y'all to drop this narrative that y'all experience racism, but the rest of us experience systemic racism. No, you guys don't experience racism. What you guys experience is the backlash of racism. I just saw a video of a mutual of mine not too long ago about how England, in every country story just about, in some way, shape, or form, England was the bad guy. I'll never forget that literally white people stole the entire fucking planet from black and brown people, and that thought has not left my brain. The sun never sets on the British Empire. You know what happens when people can say shit like that about you? You know what that means? You know what that entails? That means you're global. That means you're all around the world. That means you have occupied basically the entire planet. That's what that means. But no, white people don't experience racism. They just experience the backlash of it. Every single thing that white people love to ascribe to racism against them always comes from and is always a product of the backlash of racism. Like, I need y'all to understand that whenever you hear something like, I don't like white people, I don't trust white people, or anything along those lines from any communities of color, that does not exist from a vacuum. That does not spawn from out of nowhere. That always stems from the treatment that these people, that we have experienced at the hands of white people. Yeah, sometimes when you as a white person walk down a black neighborhood, everybody's gonna look at you. Why? Because that's how y'all treat us when we walk down y'all's neighborhood. That's how y'all have always treated us when we have walked down y'all's neighborhood. Also, there have been multiple times throughout history where white people have walked into black neighborhoods and then walked out of those neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods have been in ruin. Like, destroyed. There are entire black towns and cities under bodies of water. That white people did that. White people literally changed the landscape to destroy black people. Y'all have made entire groups where the whole point is to terrorize people of color. Meanwhile, people of color have not done anything similar to white folk. That's the crazy part, right? Like, for us POC, the groups that terrorize us are real. Meanwhile, the groups that terrorize white people are all in their heads. And they all spawn from racism. I really need white people to drop this narrative. I really need y'all to...
Can someone help me figure this out? Why is the most ignorant, racist, evil, loud people are poor? I was listening to these 2 black guys, and they was in West Virginia, and they were saying they hadn't been there 2 hours. They were playing golf, and they had white people yelling F-U-N, and they wasn't doing anything, just playing golf. Like, why do you need to make it known that you don't like a certain race? Help me understand that. Like, people are minding their business, but you gotta find a way just to make yourself, present and let them know that you don't like them. Being racist, you can't prosper.
So let me help you out with something here. You cannot defeat classism unless you defeat racism in this country. I'm going to point you in a direction for you to follow. You need to start with where the colonizers came from, and and then start working your way back to here, time-wise, looking at the different classes of people who have immigrated here, how they were treated when they first immigrated, and then slowly became accepted to maintain the status quo prior to their immigration. So
my hot take of today is that white people actually have a lot of generational trauma, and we've just like normalized it as supremacy. I actually think about this a lot because when I was in my process of like unlearning white supremacy and like the things that it made me believe about myself and like the world, and that just made me miserable, I realized that like white people believe this on the regular, and it must make them like really tortured inside. Like the other day I made a video about how like growing up in a super white town kind of made me feel like I had to like perform like something inauthentic because I wasn't the norm, right? And this comment didn't really like make me mad or anything, like don't worry about it. I could really tell it was coming from a place of I genuinely do not know what's going on, but this white guy commented and he was like, you should just be yourself, that's not healthy. No, it's not healthy. I think the whole point is that it's not healthy because like when you're like conditioned to believe in a system where one type of person is supposed to be better than all the others, obviously to enforce that system, they're gonna like project everybody that is not that standard, everybody that's not white, they're gonna project self-hatred onto them because it exists within the person that's projecting it. What I'm basically trying to say is that white supremacy can't really exist without a little bit of self-hatred from the white supremacist, because why would you feel the need to create a system that enforces that you are superior if you didn't somewhere deep down inside you fear that you weren't superior or that you weren't good enough? All that system really does at the end of the day is create an environment where certain people feel like they need to perform a certain level of perfection to be considered like human, right? But what that does at the end of the day is it removes any value from you if you aren't showing up as perfect. And I thought about this a lot in Sinners, where like that idea of like white supremacy, especially like shown through religion, is like the vampires don't have a soul, and they need the people that are creative, that like the black people that are making music, so that they can find their soul again. Why is that? Because white supremacy stripped them of their soul. And so the result of unlearning a system like that is being able to accept yourself when other people don't like you, or when the standards in place say that you don't deserve respect or things like that. But when you are following that system, you're bound to those rules. You're bound to like other people's opinions of you and like monetary value and things like that. All these things that like at the end of the day are probably going to disappear and will eventually change. You're bound to that as a way to define your worth in the system. And that is unhealthy.
Like seriously, lovelies, this whole thing with this present administration has actually exposed a whole lot. When the sister talked about how the poor white people are actually used by the rich folks to get what they want, even though these poor white people actually think that no matter how poor they are still better than black people. I have seen cases, I have seen scenarios, I have seen so many, we do all these stitches here. But there is this particular incident that happened. I think it's a story from a white woman explaining the same thing that this sister just mentioned. I try as much as I can to actually get these stories across, but I was unable to see that. But the thing is that I'm just going to I'm just going to summarize what the said Pankala Boban said upon until I came across this particular stage. This pan-colored woman happens to be an average pan-colored woman. I think, she made a video sharing her struggles, her life struggles. She actually, on an average, I wouldn't use the word like poor, and there's nothing That is that she said in the community where she lives, that they all get along. All of them get along. They are all living a normal life, like they all living a very average life, and she is surprised that they all get along until somebody, or until one political, or until one rich force or the other you know come along, then everybody begin to fall apart. And she goes as far as to say that she noticed that most of her own people who are actually probably rich, you know, use them as a weapon to, maybe to weaponize black people, you know, in order for these white rich folks to achieve their aim. And this thing has also shows that historically poor white people are being used by the rich folks to get what they want, you know. Even according to slavery, according to what happened in terms of slavery, they actually said that, these poor white folks who probably think that, oh, they're better than black people, even though whatsoever thing is for the betterment of the rich folks, it's still something that is still happening. And in this present administration, it actually showed the full picture. Let's take, for instance, most of these mega supporters right about now. They came out thinking that. Let's take, for instance, about what really is happening in this present administration, where most of these mega supporters actually voted for this, thinking that these rich folks has their best interest at heart, thinking that these rich folks are going to come for them, thinking that they are just going to come, in vote, and every other thing, or black people will be most likely going to be the people that will get affected. But the thing is that the reverse is the case. Now they are all finding out that they have been used. They have been used by these white folks or by these rich folks to achieve their own gain, or to achieve their aim. That is why it's as if majority is now crashing out, coming out, yelling, and, all wrapped with emotions. Let's assume that this, the outcome of their election actually favored them. None of them will come out to rant. None of them will come out to start, cursing this present administration or complaining about most of the things happening, even though there is this concrete and cis people who, even if they are still struggling and suffering, they still believe that he is the man for the job. Don't be surprised that even though there is another election that is being conducted in few years or few months to come, these people will still go ahead to vote against their own interests. After which they will come out and start ranting. Before the elections and all of that, they actually felt that, oh, maybe we have been promised that, oh, just do this for us, we are going to repay you in kind. They'll be brainwashed to actually think that if you, as a pan color person, you're a poor person or maybe an average person, that you are better than a black person who actually are on the high earning, space. Like, I think this is all piled up with brainwash the white rich folks using the poor black folks to oppress or suppress black people. And this has always been the way at which the system has, you know. But then again, I think now most of them are waking up that they are being used by these folks. That is why there is a lot of ranting on the space of social platform, or a lot of complaints by the space of, on the space of, social platforms. This present administration, seriously, the level of things that is exposing It's nothing to write home about. This is something that has been going on for a while, but it's something that is more physical now compared to before. It's more pronounced now compared to before. I want to say that most of the things that is going on right about now is not been happening. It has been happening to a specific set of people, but right about now it's affecting, you know, white people, and now this is the reason why they are all crashing out, lovelies. When this sister was actually speaking, I understood every aspect of what she was, trying to put out there, because something like this has happened and a pan-colored woman has come out to call it out. But again, nothing is gonna change or be done. But it's just that it's actually very advisable for people to get aware, or to keep on getting awareness, you know and the fact remains that so many pine color people are beginning to see, they're beginning to wake up. But then again, waking up waking up and not doing something to change narrative is just, the bridge. Let's just take, for instance, this concluded election that happened, the one in NYC, the New York, and every other places that this election took place, and the vast majority that voted are actually black people. Like, how is that even possible? If you're someone that keep on coming out on a special platform to rant, and the thing is that some people actually thought that black people are voting based on race and all of that. The woman who won actually shows that black people are always all out for every minority group. But if the case was turned up, the other peers, the white people are always trying to vote according, or specifically for their own self-interest, and not for the self-interest of every other person. And then this present administration keep on exposing these devious characters. Anyway, lovelies, why not just leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We just here for educational and informative purposes. So please share this video. Subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that. Like, and I will see you, love listener, upload the next one.
Anyway, lovely, so now just leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. Please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We're just here for educational and informative purposes. So please share this video, subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that, and also support my other channel, Verse. And I will see you, lovely, when I upload the next one.